This is the Maternity Midwifery Hour, supported by Netflix video, streaming from the maternity experts. All your CPD needs made easy, and Netflix is the one-stop shop for anyone who wants to finish a project or do their revalidation. And now, without further ado, I'm going to introduce Sheena Byrom, who is known to many, many of you. Sheena Byrom OBE. She joins us from Lancashire, and she's well known for her work in humanising childbirth, in providing consultation to maternity services and supporting maternity services wherever she goes. She's fabulous in writing and her international work, and of course as director of All for Maternity. So welcome, Sheena. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sue, and good evening, everybody. If you're in the United Kingdom, I'm absolutely delighted to be here. And like Jenny, I feel very humbled that I'm not in practice at the moment. I'm actually in isolation because I've got an underlying condition. And so I'm helping from the back office, as it were. So I'm helping a lot of my colleagues in practice, but I'm delighted to be here with you this evening. So I'm just going to start my slides, and the first slide is just to demonstrate that this, as we've already heard, is a global pandemic. And what this photograph kind of conjures up for me is that we're in it together. The whole of the world is in it together. Major stresses. I don't think I've slept at all since this pandemic has ramped up. But what reassures me, or not reassures me, because it's not a positive thing, but it kind of like gives me some kind of, I don't know, some kind of feeling at the back of my head, is that we're in it together. And that's wonderful for me in a way, because one of the things I'm really keen on is looking after each other. It's my mantra in life, really, to make sure that after looking after ourselves, which Jenny's alluded to, is looking after each other, because I think, like Jenny said, not only are there huge benefits to that, but it actually changes the world. And maybe this is a time for resetting. Even in the midst of this distressing time, it could be a time for us to think about the future, and I'm going to cover that in a moment. First of all, I want to thank you. Like Jenny said, we've got huge gratitude. The world has got a huge gratitude to healthcare workers everywhere, and other workers too. I appreciate that. But being in direct contact with sick and people that are using healthcare, actually you're putting yourselves forward for something completely different. And I just feel that, you know, my gratitude to you is never ending, and I am stood by your side, and all I can say is that you are the ones that are kind of making the world go round at the moment. So thank you so much from me and my family. Now, I'm just going to turn my attention to the fact that I've been hearing so many stories from my colleagues, so many distressing stories of midwives that are feeling burnt out, they're feeling anxious and worried, has already been mentioned. This is a wonderful image of two midwives looking after each other. Unfortunately, we can't do this anymore. This touch, this connection, because of social distancing, isn't possible. And this is something that I'm missing at the moment, not having hugs. And so, of course, when you're working in a situation where you probably need a hug or you need touch and it's not happening, how do we cope with that? How do we deal with it? And I'm just going to kind of give you a few suggestions, if that's all right with you. This slide I use all the time, and if you've heard me talk, you've probably seen it before, and I never take it out because it's kind of, for me, it's just the most fundamental thing, and it's about love, because we have to keep bringing ourselves back to this. The fact that maternity workers, healthcare workers, everyone that's looking after the sick or pregnant women that are having babies, they must have this feeling underlying. It's that makes them tick. It's that they go and do that extra mile because they've got that love for their job and that love for what they're doing. And I think, you know, over the past few weeks, we've seen how this love has risen up in many, many people. And so that's kind of where I want to base my talk on. The first, love, I've written it 3 times. The first one, actually, Jenny's covered. That's about loving yourself, and that's about the care that you give yourself, because you can't really give anything from an empty cup. The second one is about helping your colleagues and supporting your colleagues. And the third one is how we connect with women that we're caring for and families. So I'll just move on to, this is a slide taken from Michael West's work. Michael West works for the King's Fund, and he's a big advocate of compassionate leadership. And you may not think that you're leaders. So, you might be thinking, oh, this is just for managers, but it isn't. This is about everybody, because actually in us all, we have leadership capabilities, and especially if you're midwives and student midwives, because you're actually leading women through woman-centered care. That's what you're doing. So let's think about this. This is everybody's responsibility. And what Michael West and his colleagues say is that actually we all need ABC. We need autonomy, so we need a voice and influence. We need the ability to make decisions. We need to support each other, because that gives us control. And when we have that autonomy and control, that helps us during the day. We can do that for others. We can help others to have that voice, to have that influence by our actions. And I've seen this in action. I've actually done it myself in practice, and I've seen others doing it too. Giving others that autonomy and that ability to think for themselves. We need to belong. We need to, all of us need to have a home team. And I loved it when I read about this home team, because it really conjured up this picture of kind of how we connect with others, how we support those who are maybe struggling, but also how we find our role models and we cling on to them. What are they doing that's different? Even this week, I've found some role models, heads of midwifery, that are actually offering choice to women, and they're doing it courageously and in a way that's just made my heart sing. But finding your home team is very important, and we need to be loved and we need to be supported. And competence, so share learning, share when things are going right as well as when things aren't going so right. Try to reduce each other's workload by making each other a cup of tea or doing something to help each other. And I'm just going to move my little thing. Review meetings, reviewing. So having kind of tiny meetings during the day where you can review what's going on is really important. And that's kind of, there's a lot to talk about with that, really. So just to move my slides on. The next is taken from actually the Practising Midwife journal that me and my daughter own. This is the latest issue, and it's showing how we have to try really hard to establish relationships of equality and reciprocity, and that's sort of helping each other and looking at, not just the groups that we normally work with, but looking outside the box to the groups that we should be linking in with, the nurses, the doctors, and thinking about race and equality as well, so that we can practice in a way that's really congenial to the best situation. Social media is a huge advantage to us at the moment if we use it properly, because when we talk about social distancing, that doesn't mean we shouldn't connect. And both Jenny and I and Sue have found huge benefits from working with our peers and others, finding things that are going on outside our normal working space, normal group, to find that support and that encouragement. And we're working now with a global community. We're meeting online others who have actually had dealings with COVID, and they can help us to get through it by giving us some advice. So it's massive, and it's really worth thinking about Twitter and Instagram and Facebook to get that support, but use it wisely. And actually, Maeve O'Connell and colleagues have written a fantastic paper. I'm not sure whether you've read it, but we can put the link in the comments of the Facebook page, that actually now's the time for midwives to provide support for each other, social media. So they're reiterating this that I've just said, that actually now's the time to engage with it if you're not already doing so. So what about women? Do you know, when we think about the connection that we can have with women during labour and birth, and this is what you would class as a real humanised birth scene. But now, given the fact that all women have to be treated as though they've potentially got COVID, then we're going to be wearing masks and gowns, and that changes somehow this kind of picture. but it doesn't need to change the way we are with women. So we might look different, but there's things we can do so that it doesn't come between the connection and the relationship that we have with women. It's so important. It's more important now than it's ever been. So when you look at this image, it conjures up fear. And I know many, many midwives, I haven't mentioned the word fear yet, but that's what midwives are telling me, and doctors, that they're fearful for so many reasons. And this kind of scene might conjure up more fear for the women we're caring for. So what can we do about that? Well, actually, there's quite a lot. So this is an image of someone who's smiling. And I remember talking to a woman who actually had a full burqa on. She was of a Muslim religion, and she was covered up except for her eyes. And when she gave me feedback about the care she'd had, she said the thing that mattered to her was the eye contact, and how everybody looked. If somebody looked at her in the eye instead of looking away, that made a massive difference. So look at these eyes. Even though this person has got a mask on, we can see what's going on in her soul, the connection that she's having. Take a closer look. Look at the reflection. Think about the pupils. How can that affect the way that you care for somebody? When I was sick recently, when a nurse came up to me and looked me straight in the eye, that's the thing that made the difference to me. And when she smiled, it made me feel so much better. This is an example, and I'm sharing it with permission from Hayley Newnham of Downside Up. And this is a friend of hers who's actually in hospital at the moment, and he's given me permission to use it. He's actually a doctor, but he's suffering at the moment from COVID. He's been very seriously ill in intensive care unit. And and Hayley posts every day on his behalf to say how he is. And this is what he said. He said he wants everyone to know the peace of the ward, and sorry, I'm just going to have to try and find, I'm just going to read it. Can you see there? He wants everyone to know the peace of the ward and the serenity and preparedness of the staff who have learnt a new skill of spreading hope. Think of hope through their smiling eyes, the only part visible behind their protective clothing. And that's making a massive difference to him. And in Israel, this photograph was shared with me again by Hayley. What they're doing there is they're putting photographs of themselves hanging down or sticking on their PPE just to show their face. So how wonderful is that? We're learning new things all the time. And again, going back to Michael West's work, this is one of the things he says in his piece, which I know that you're going to have the link to, is that connection and compassion are certain, unchanging, and provide a safe refuge for the face of this onslaught on healthcare and care systems and our wider community. So that's saying that that's the thing that can keep us going, the compassion, because when we're compassionate to someone else, it comes back to us 100-fold. So this is the thing that can sustain us, how compassionate we are with ourselves, but also with our colleagues, and then with the people that we're caring for, the women and the birthing people. In our latest edition of the Practising Midwife, we've got a vision. This was actually produced before before it took over. But what we're showing is how we can look through the looking glass like Alice did and look to a future that's bright. We can actually redesign our future now. We can recreate, make it better. We've got chance to reconnect and think about the humanizing of childbirth. This is all about it, and it has to be done with kindness and compassion, and that's right from policy level right through to the connections we have with women and birthing people. So what I'd like you to take from my bit of the talk is the eyes. Think about the smiling eyes. If women and families can't see your full face, keep those eyes smiling, because those are the things that will help you to connect when women are afraid. And it will also bring back a smile that will help you to be less afraid too. Thank you so much.